right, welcome everyone to this week's edition of Redistricting Radar. This is the one you've been waiting for. It's California, the largest state in the country with the most congressional districts in the country. I know this has been kind of awaited for a while, and so we're really excited to bring this to you. So we got a big group for you today as well. This is going to be a lot longer than our previous one. So I'm going to be here. Adam Trencher is here as well, along with Nick Morris, who co-hosts co-hosts the Map Room with me every week. On Old Bull TV. And then also later in the program, we're going to have Armin Thomas is going to come on, and Harrison Lavelle should probably be able to show up as well. They'll probably be on around 8 o'clock, but we got so much content here that it's probably going to take a lot longer to go through all of this. So welcome, Nick, to the program for the first time, and we'll just kind of get started here. So California, it's a very interesting state. It's a very democratic state at most levels, or at really all levels. It's got an overwhelmingly Democratic, legislature. It's got an overwhelming Democratic congressional delegation, 2 Democratic senators, Democratic governor. All statewide executive officers are Democrats, and it has not voted for a Republican since 1988. So a very blue state. But what makes California interesting is its regional, geographic, and political diversity, as well as demographic diversity, obviously, but also its redistricting process. So during the mid-2000s, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a reform-minded governor, put a big emphasis on creating more fair and proportional maps. For decades, the legislature and congressional maps had been gerrymandered to benefit both parties. It was usually a bipartisan gerrymander where no seats were gained or lost by either party, except in extremely unusual circumstances with a really bad wave election like 2006. The commission changed that for better or worse. It created a new system where the commission draws the maps themselves. They're based on objective standards. They're drawn generally from citizens, and they're lobbied in order to create a map that fairly represents communities of interest, county, city lines, and to some degree political competitiveness, although the last commission disregarded political identity entirely. There were some well-known problems with the first run of this commission. ProPublica put out an article fairly soon after it came out, alleging there had been some interference from partisan groups and from incumbents. For example, the incumbent in the 2nd congressional district lobbied for his district to stretch all the way up from the coast, so all the way up from Marin County to the border with Oregon, and it worked. He managed to get his district the way he wanted. There were others as well who were lobbying for things, but overall, the map was seen as a fairer and more cohesive, more representative map than the previous cycles had done. So going forward, California is expected to lose at least 1 congressional district. Currently, they have 53. They would be going to 52. And there's even a possibility they could go to a 51st congressional district, which would most likely come out of Southern California. I think a common trend you'll notice with our maps, although I've not really examined the others, is that in all likelihood, the district that is lost comes from Southern California. A lot of the population growth in the Bay Area has been substantial, and Southern California, in some ways, has kind of lagged behind the rest of the state overall. So we're really excited to show this to you. So I guess who wants to kind of go first on this? Do you have any more comments on the commission, the process, the results from last cycle? Because they really do speak for themselves in terms of the races overall.
I mean, I can make some comments on the commission if you want, because I've done a bit of reading on this.
Specifically, the legislature is interesting to me because it's so small. There's only 40 senators, which is fewer than the number of congressmen, and there's only 80 state assembly districts. They're generally they're encouraged to be somewhat within each other. So assembly districts should generally be contained within Senate districts to a degree. But it's an interesting process.
Yeah. In California, actually, the Constitution says that the assembly districts, there has to actually be 2 to every 1 Senate district, and essentially what they did is ignore that in this cycle. I think it's for reasons of minority representation. Yeah, minority representation. Like I think there were some problems with that, especially in like the LA area. LA area is generally very diverse, like most areas, so it's hard to get districts that favor like African Americans, for instance. Like there's quite a lot of African Americans in LA County, but it's pretty hard to get them into one district because they're so spread out.
Even Asian Americans have trouble because Asian Americans often are in districts with a lot of white voters or very, very diverse areas like San Francisco or San Jose, Los Angeles, Orange County. Those sorts of areas are very diverse.
Yeah, you do have quite a lot of districts which have high Asian populations. I think the 39th Gilchrist Narrows district, I think that has quite a lot.
I would argue they kind of got hosed last time in terms of the actual representation. They weren't really represented as much as they could have been, but that's just something that can be rectified in maps.
Yeah, I think the closest you get to a majority Asian district in California is the 17th Rocanas district. I believe that is majority Asian. So no, what I was saying about the commission is that like it's been talked about a lot, and like for instance on Elections Daily, I think Eric said that we have written a couple of articles on this. The commission is forbidden from using partisan data, so they can't like explicitly gerrymander the state. But like as Eric said, the members of Congress can lobby the commission through outside groups.
They can and have done as much.
Somewhat successful in doing that. Somewhat successful in doing that. Like you mentioned Jared Huffman. I know that you disagreed with me yesterday on how Jared Huffman's district should be drawn.
Correct. I think there'll be differences in our map, but we can get onto that later. But it's not just him. I think one of I think Jerry McNerney as well in the 9th district. He lobbied to have his district drawn a specific way. If I recall right, there was like a controversy over considering an airport district as a district for a community of interest. Like Maxine Waters wanted the airport drawn into her seat or something along that line.
That's the 33rd. That's the 33rd district, I think, Ted Lieu's district. That crosses over the airport. So that's if you consider that, because the airport, like, it pretty much splits the two areas of the district, so it could be considered like non-contiguous by some standards. But that failed. So Maxine Waters now lives in a district which she doesn't represent. She doesn't live.
And that's not uncommon. Tom McClintock lives in Sacramento County, but his district does not contain in Sacramento. His district doesn't contain any of Sacramento County. It's in the Sierra Nevada region.
And funny enough, when he was in the state assembly, his district was not even in Northern California. It was in Ventura County.
Arch conservative Tom McClintock. Here are the districts at the moment to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Overall, there are some visible good things. There's some visible problems with some of these districts, but overall, it's a much fairer map than what they had before. There used to be a district that kind of stretched all the way along the coast. That was frankly ludicrous. There was one that was drawn to make a Republican seat in the Bay Area that kind of backfired.
Lois Capps and Richard Pombo's seat.
Yeah, Richard Pombo's seat, the last Republican in the Bay Area, or at least until obviously Catherine Baker lost her legislative seat there. But he was the last one in Congress. This is what it overall looks like. So as you can see here, just the basic, geographic stuff we're talking about here. The first is kind of contained in the mountains. Southern California is really dense around Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area, specifically Riverside County, Orange, Los Angeles. San Diego has some as well. Riverside kind of gets a weird split here. The 8th is kind of an unusual district as well in some ways. And then the Bay Area looks pretty decent, all things considered. Pretty respectful. I know some people have opinions about the Central Valley, the way those districts are drawn. I know my map takes a little bit of a different approach to the Central Valley. But overall, this was a fair map, and it resulted in a lot of competitive races. It didn't result in a lot of races where Republicans made gains, but it did result in a lot of races that were very competitive, specifically in places like the 7th District had a ton of competitive races. I know a lot of even like the 22nd District, the 16th, which stretches Jim Acosta's district, had some competitive races. Obviously, Southern California was super competitive last cycle. So that was certainly a benefit of the map, to be sure. Do you want to go ahead and kind of go into the maps we've drawn? Who wants to kind of go first here? I've got a lot.
I took a bit of a different approach to you. Since there's actually some ambiguity about whether or not it's even going to lose a district at all, I went for 53 districts map.
That's good. That's actually good for diversity. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Should we go with that first as a since that would be the least likely scenario? Go with that first.
Sure.
Yeah. Just before we say that,
I'll share my screen.
Before we do that, I just wanted to.
Let Nick mention something here real quick first.
I just wanted to make a comment, like before we move on from the current districts, is that I think, I'm not sure if this has been substantiated, but I think that a lot of these districts are drawn like according to what they used to look like, because like for instance, drawing half of Bakersfield into the Central Valley seat, or like the 51st district down in like San Diego to Imperial County, which I sort of have like that's like a major pet peeve of mine. It doesn't make any sense at all. But like it was drawn that way last decade to protect, I think, Mary Bono, like who lived in Imperial County, if she had sorry, not Imperial, Riverside County.
Yep, Riverside.
If Imperial was drawn into her district, which it really should have been, in my opinion, then she would have been a lot more vulnerable. So,
granted, she lost anyway, ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, she lost after redistricting. So, but the 51st district underneath her is like that's stayed the same this decade, despite the fact that it has some like major geographical flaws.
Yeah, but we'll go ahead and go to Adam, who's going to go with his map, which is a 53 district map, just so we know. So I'll put this in a banner below. 53 district map, just so we all remember how many this is, because sometimes it is a little bit difficult with these large maps to keep track of things. I know when I've been drawing maps before they introduced renumbering into Dave's redistricting, I would literally be like halfway done with a map or 3/4 of the way done and just give up because the numbering was off. Like, it's really hard to work on these sorts of larger projects, to be sure.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, and so I'm going to go ahead and load it up here.
So I have a 53 district map here, so I can zoom out a bit. And so that's the beginning of it. So let's just go district by district. I essentially preserve the existing shapes of the districts. And that was intentional because I essentially think that the California State Redistricting Committee is going to be content of how it is and try to essentially do a map of little change when it comes to all that. So the first district is pretty much identical, as is the second. The second, again, preserves the entire coast with Del Norte County. I know you all disagreed about how you felt about that. I personally went with, if Nick's argument, I thought the committee would find that one would go with essentially a redistricting stare decisis when it comes to this. And what are some highlights? I tried to preserve counties more, and due to the bizarre shape of some California counties, what that led to is this seventh here, which is, pretty ugly, but does preserve the county better. To go on a partisan level, the first district remains solidly Republican, and Trump won it by 17, R+10 PVI. Second, solidly Democratic by a lot. 3 was Hillary by 14, D+5 PVI, but John Garamendi has a pretty strong hold on that one. Fourth district, geographically, it looks different, and the reason why is because if I go to the county overlay, you can see I moved Inyo and Mono counties into it. It doesn't have much of a partisan effect. Those counties are both tiny. The district goes from R+9 to R+10.
Although interestingly, they're politically competitive counties at this point.
They are?
Yeah.
Very rural, but very competitive.
Interesting. Anyhow, this district essentially preserves how it is. Fifth district here remains solidly Democratic, pretty much the same shape. Sixth, Dort's Masui's district actually becomes considerably less Democratic, as the seventh district becomes considerably more Democratic. The 7th district would have been competitive in like the 2012, 2014, 2016 had been competitive. It's just moved way off the map in the Trump era.
It hurts that Amy Barrett is a pretty terrible incumbent. He's pretty unpopular, all things considered, even in a pretty favorable seat for him. He almost lost a couple of times.
Anyhow, continuing with this, the 8th district, which I kept the numbering system, so I have to drag it all the way down here. The 8th district becomes a pure San Bernardino district, and that keeps it a lot cleaner geographically than the district Paul Cook currently represents. And that's again R+9, Trump +15, pretty uncompetitive seat. The 9th district up here, I believe, becomes a bit more competitive. It goes to D+5, 4.5, which is quite a bit less liberal than the current D+7, and could actually put McNerney into a more competitive race, should there be a red wave. Though it actually, funny enough, seems to be more Bay Area than the previous one.
That portion of the Bay Area county, there's actually more Republican than most of the Bay. I mean, it's not that Republican, but it's more favorable than a lot of the rest of the Bay Area, for sure.
Yeah. So the 10th district is a total mess. The 10th district, I basically wanted to keep Stanislaus County together. It is impossible. It is very difficult to do it without screwing up how the 20th is drawn and then screwing up how all the San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland districts are drawn. So 10th district is your black sheep district. It's your none of the above district for the Bay Area plus the Central Valley. So it's ugly as heck, but it also does give Josh Harder a much, much safer seat. 11th district remains suburban, remains the East Bay. 12th, San Francisco. 13th is Oakland, Barbara Lee, Oakland. 14th, some San Mateo County. 15, also East Bay. These are all uncompetitive Democratic seats. I could go into more detail, but they're basically lease changes from the current map, and they're all very, very safe D.
It's the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I mean, that really says it all.
Yep. The 16th is the new district for Jim Costa. It looks pretty ugly, but if you look at it, it's actually considerably more competitive than his current district. It's only voted for Hillary by 9. It's only a D+3 PVI. So Costa, who is perennially unpopular, would actually face competitive races in the seats.
Could Elizabeth Heng be competitive here?
Yes, she could very well. Her Costa is going to cost you ads are actually pretty good, seriously. But 17th, the 17th district looks contorted, but this basically all of this has no population. It's just to create contiguity, just to be clear on that. The actual map, you just split the precinct and
it's water. Yeah.
Yeah. So 17th is actually pretty cruddy for Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna gets drawn into the 15th, I believe. Sorry if I remember correctly. But it essentially preserves the thing. 18th, 19th are pretty much the same district they currently are, as is the 20th.
Yeah, we have a request from Jackson Bryman, who is insisting that you go into great detail on the 18th because it is his congressional district.
Got it. Well, you see, it's quite a hike to get through it. You got to go kilometer by man. But so Jackson, as you can see, the district pretty much, as I zoom in, runs from Santa Clara, covers Cupertino, Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Los Altos, Stanford University, Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, Redwood City, Portola Valley. Moving down, we have Rwanda, San Gregorio, Loma Mar, Escadero, Butano Park, Sanborn County Park, Boulder Creek, Swanson, Booney Dune, and Wilder Ranch State Park, and Whale Mouth Cave, which I almost read as Pete Wine Cave.
I actually want to learn more about Whale Mouth Cave now. That's a bizarre name for a cave.
So Deep breath. So, continuing, we have the new 21st. The 21st is the old Balladao TJ Cox district. It's actually pretty funny because that's actually pretty much Jim Costa's old district, but he just moved to Dennis Cardozo's district after redistricting, and Cardozo was like, "Guess I'll retire," and Jim Costa just got uncomfortable with the idea of being in a district that was merely Obama by 17. Which is something about Jim Costa. But anyhow, 21st district is Hillary by 10, D plus 3 PVI. It's 54.5% Hispanic by CVAP. And this is some of the Central Valley. It has Delano, famous for its grapes, and it has some of Bakersfield. So this essentially is a status quo-y, and again, pretty similar. The 22nd district, though, which is Devin Nunes' district, gets a big redraw. Also, the 21st district would be much more favorable for the Republicans than the current one. Just the reference, because the 22nd district here, this Nunes' new district is both majority minority CVAP, and it actually voted for Hillary by half a point. So you can see you have two effects. Cardozo's district becomes much redder, as Cox's, but in turn, Nunes becomes much bluer. So your Central Valley overall becomes considerably more competitive. So your 22nd here is pretty much all of Fresno and its suburbs that does not get drawn into is Costa's district. 23rd is a new district for Kevin McCarthy. It is essentially the same district. It just looks weird. Then continuing over here, we have the 24th. This is, again, pretty much the status quo for Salud Carbajal. I'm not pronouncing that right. 25th, the district we all knew we were waiting for. How does fighter pilot Mike Garcia do in redistricting on this map? And Mike Garcia makes out pretty well with this. As you can see, your 25th district actually moves into Kern a little bit, taking in areas from McCarthy, and then it loses a lot. It loses pretty much all of the Simi Valley. So what effect does that have? It essentially replaces high-income, swingy but conservative suburbanites with ultra-conservative rural whites who will never vote for a Democrat.
Yeah. People who think Lancaster and Palmdale are the bastions of California liberalism.
Yes. And you can see that in how, I'll go to the district. 23 is still safe R, 24 is still safe D, 25 is now R plus 1 PVI. Hillary only won it by 5. So, again, in a district that's more favorable for Garcia, both in terms of margin and the elasticity. Then your 26th district is pretty much the same thing for Julia Brownlee. 27 is similar for Judy Chu. It's a bit more Asian than her current one, which might be good for the commission. The 28th here is, if I remember correctly, Schiff's current district, and that remains about what it is. It becomes a bit more compact than the current one. So like 29th is Tony Gardenias. If I remember correctly.
There's a lot of backbenchers in Los Angeles County.
I'm trying my best here. That majority minority safety. 30th is for Brad Sherman, again pretty similar to his current district. Let's see, do we have any big changes in Los Angeles County? 31st, where's the 31st? 31st is Pete Aguilar's district. That is actually much safer D than the current one is. The 32nd is Grace Napolitano's district. I'm surprised to remember that. And Grace Napolitano's district is funny because you see this is Grace Napolitano's district, and moving quite a bit of ways on here, this is where Grace Napolitano actually lives. So it's not like this is just a feature of this map. This is how Grace Napolitano's district has always been. She has not lived in her district for the entire time she's represented us.
She lives in like LA, doesn't she?
Yeah. So anyhow, we're now on to the most awaited district the whole time. The district we have all been waiting for, the 33rd. So the 33rd is pretty similar to the current one, but I'll go through it in a bit more detail. So you can see it's all of Rolling Hills and Torrance. It has a little bit of Lawndale, Manhattan Beach. It has LAX, much to the disappointment of Maxine Waters. It has all of Santa Monica in it, and then it moves up a bit to Pacific Palisades. Unlike the current district, it doesn't capture Malibu and it doesn't capture Calabasas, which are moved in to Brad Sherman's district.
Yes. But if you notice the vote totals, the fact that Rolling Hills is there really makes this probably the most competitive of the uncompetitive Democratic ones, because Rolling Hills is still fairly Republican. This is only a Hillary plus 30 or Hillary plus 40 district. So only.
Yes. So this seat is, I for one thought this is one of the more significant changes, moving the Calabasas, this whole area out of it. I thought it led to a cleaner district for everyone involved that was more compact, more community of interest oriented in terms of the surrounding areas. So that's one of the larger changes on this map. The 34th is Jimmy Gomez, who replaced Xavier Becerra when he resigned to become the California AG after Kamala Harris resigned to become the California senator, which means, of course, now what we have to expect is that if Biden wins, Xavier Becerra is going to become the California senator, Jimmy Gomez is going to become the California attorney general. We'll have to have a new special election for that seat. We have to go with the Mark Pocan and Tammy Baldwin kind of path here.
Then Becerra becomes vice president.
Exactly. But anyhow, so the 34th is fairly similar to the current one. It's a compact Los Angeles district, and that is very safely Democratic.
Very white. Or actually, no, relatively white. Only 25% white.
It's 25% white CVAP, but it's 15% white by total population, which just shows you can see the Hispanic population goes from 60% of total to 46.6 by CVAP. So that just shows, you just look at the sheer raw number, 445, 741 to 184, 139. It's just a massive shift. So then we have 35, and 35 is over here, and this is Norma Torres' district on the current map. And Norma Torres is actually drawn out of her district. The current district is some of Riverside, some of San Bernardino, and some of LA County. I think this one's a bit cleaner. So you can see, and Norma Torres' home, just for the reference, is about right there. Yeah, right there in Pomona. And 35th district is, it's somewhat competitive. If Hillary won it by 13, and in a good Republican year, it's very possible that they could flip it. It also is a potential double bunking situation because Ken Calvert's home in Corona, I know, too soon, is in this district. So then after the 35th, you have the 36th, which I tried to preserve the existing pattern, which has the unfortunate effect of A, it doesn't really work because it's just based off the northern height, and B, I don't also entirely remember the pattern perfectly. Yeah, 36 is for Raul Ruiz, and funny enough, I just mentioned Pomona, and I just got an email from, of all people, Harvey Mudd College, but which is in neighboring town of Claremont. But 36 is 36 here is pretty much the same as Raoul Rui's current district. It's just a lot of Riverside County going out, which you mentioned. And yes, this does preserve the current shape. I apologize, Nick.
I'm actually okay with that, with the shape.
So then the 37th is right here. This is Karen Bass's district. And this one becomes a bit more compact. And it actually is now majority white CVAP, interestingly enough. Which would be which I don't believe that is a VRA violation, because I don't believe there's a Gingles test for Southern California. But so this shouldn't be problematic at all. But
yeah, it's not hard. It's actually hard to draw majority white districts in Southern California. So if anything,
we're gonna see an interesting legal question within the next coming cycles of whether or not VRA districts for white people are going to get mandated in California. I'm completely serious on this, by the way.
I mean, in theory, it sounds stupid, but in theory, it's not like there's a special VRA districts don't apply to white people. That's not been settled. It's never had to be a question.
Yeah, I know. Which it'll be very interesting. But anyhow, you then have the 38th, which is a very, very Hispanic seat, and that's for Linda Sanchez. Or is it Linda Sanchez or Loretta Sanchez? I'm blanking.
Loretta Sanchez.
Loretta Sanchez.
The current one is Linda Sanchez. Sorry, Linda.
Yes, Loretta was the one who is known for the infamous dab and for beating Bob Dornan back in 1996.
And for also being apparently a tremendous baseball player.
I did not know that, actually.
If I recall right, she's one of the best players on the congressional basketball or the congressional baseball. Let me see if I'm correct here. It's one of the two Sanchez sisters, but is known for being a tremendous player in the annual congressional baseball game.
I did not know that. So what they say is I remember reading an article about that a while ago, and what it said is Cedric Richmond is apparently like in a total league of his own when it comes to the congressional baseball. After that,
no, it's apparently her. It's apparently she's the baseball one. So
so then 39 is where we start to get into interesting districts. This is what is currently Gil Cisneros' district, or if you ask Charlie Kirk, Young Kim's district. And the 39th is pretty similar to the current one. It remains majority non-white CVAP. This is a district that Hillary won by a 6 and has an R+2 PVI, which is about the same as the current district, if I recall, and it's one that will remain competitive for the foreseeable future. I actually believe it's a little bit to the right of the current one, which actually suggests that had this district been the real map, you might, as Charlie Kirk believes, we have Congresswoman Young Kim. Moving on to the 40th. This is for Neperegan. It's much more compact than the current one. This is a majority Hispanic CVAP seat, and it is ludicrously Democratic. As a matter of fact, so Democratic that Trump only got about 30% more votes than Gary Johnson and Jill Stein and the other third-party candidates combined in 2016. And then we move on to the 41st district, and the 41st is, let me try to figure out where this is. 41st is up here. This is Mark Takano's seat. And Mark Takano remains in a plurality Hispanic, majority minority CVAP seat. Hillary by 27, D+12, PVI, pretty safe D. It's much more compact than the current one, though. The current one is pretty much a T-shaped district, and what that accomplishes, sorry, this just cleans that up a bit. District 42 is Ken Calvert's seat. Ken Calvert's seat currently looks like a man doing jumping jacks, and and we've now moved into what is, and now it's ambiguous blob. And by going from man doing jumping jacks to ambiguous blob, we haven't really affected the partisanship. It's still Trump by 14.4, still our.
It's basically a Republican vote sink in Southern California. Like, that's what it effectively is.
It is not an intentional one, but is one that's formed naturally by the geography.
It's stretched to. Oh no, hang on, I'm wrong. Don't worry.
No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's not intentional. They just decided, ooh, we're going to pack all the Republicans here. That's how it's turned out. They're the only ones who have stayed loyal.
Yeah.
Yes. So then we have the 43rd here. This is Maxine Waters' district. I actually tried to make this considerably more, tried to keep this a bit more consistent than the current one. So this is a bit blacker, a bit less Hispanic than the current seat, but otherwise pretty similar. Again, ludicrously Democratic, as you'd expect. 44, I was doing so good at remembering the names of the congressmen, and now I'm just drawing a blank.
They're just getting into the deep depths of the LA County backbenchers.
Yeah. It's Nanette Barragan.
It's Nanette Barragan. All right. But then who was California? Who was the one that
46.
said? No, who was 40 then? Because I said someone else. Because I said Barragan for 40. Who was 40? That's
Roy Ballard.
Yeah. So 40 is Lucy Roybal Allard. 44 is Brian. Par in the air. Again, very Hispanic seat, very Democratic. Moving on. 45. Finally, some competitive seats. It's like the Gordon Ramsay meme, but for congressional districts. 45. This is Mimi Walters' seat, John B.T. Campbell's seat, and now most recently Katie Porter's seat. It's quite a shift over the years. This seat moves a bit to the left, actually. It's now Hillary by 11, even PVI. So Porter would be pretty happy with this seat. And it's, again, pretty compatible with the current one. 46 is Luke Correa's seat. This is actually once upon a time was Bob Dornan's seat. This majority minority, 22% white. It's seat once upon a time represented Bob Dornan. And when I say once upon a time, I mean 24 years ago. Seriously.
The first Republican to lose in Orange County in a House race.
Yes. Well, all he did was say that Hispanic people voting was proof that voter fraud was occurring. It's Bob Dornan really is next level disgusting when it comes to a congressman. But he really is proof that the John Birchers were the moderates in Orange County politics once upon a time. And so then we move on to District 47. Good God, so many districts. 47 is the Long Beach district. It's Alan Lowenthal's district. It remains safe D. Moving on. 48. 48 is is Harley Ruta's seat, and it becomes a bit more competitive. It's now R+5 by PVI instead of R+3. And as you can see, Hillary won it by 8 votes. Which means that Hillary won it by the error it is in splitting precincts for DRA. Trump very well could actually won the seat in reality. We actually just don't know because how DRA calculates its precincts. It's pretty similar to the current one in shape. It's just a bit more Republican. Mm-hmm. We then move on to 49, which is Mike Levin's seat, and this preserves the current shape in essence. It's the Shoreline District. It's for parts of Orange and San Diego counties. And this moves a bit right. It moves around 2 points to the right. But Levin would probably not have any issues holding this. Red wave, it could be competitive, though. So Republicans, as you can see, have a lot of upside red waves on this map. Mm-hmm. 50 is Duncan Hunter's seat, and incredibly, this actually became D+2. That was not intentional. Well, it actually just worked out that way with the geography. So, how would Duncan Hunter, or I guess Daryl Issa now? Oh, Daryl Issa, I think, has ran for like 3 totally separate seats in 20 years. That's Daryl for you. This is actually fairly similar. You might look at it and say, well, this is very different because of all these areas out here. No one lives here. This is the desert. I put it in 53. It looks cleaner. It doesn't actually change the partisanship. It's just how it works out there. Could I make Levin safer and make Hunter safer? Probably. Could I see the commission saying creating more competitive districts is a virtue? Yeah, possibly. It's not inconceivable this happens. 51, which does not go all the way up there. This is just how the way the precinct is laid out. Is a safely Democratic San Diego district for Scott Peters. This was competitive once upon a time. Brian Bilbray's old seat, not anymore. 52 is a much more compact seat. This would definitely be competitive in the pre-Trump era. Post-Trump, not really. And 53 is essentially the Juan Vargas' seat. It's majority Hispanic CVAP. It goes out to Imperial County. This looks cleaner. It doesn't have anyone that's actually that different than the current map. Yeah. So what does this student map look like on the analytics? Well, this map, and I did rush this. There were some potential errors with this. So what this does do is, looking up here, it doesn't actually like it for competitive. I think it's actually pretty good at competitive. But they do look on proportionality. So in terms of potential opportunity districts, this here actually produces, is reasonably good in their opinion. The seats are fairly compact in their review. And then we go to the advanced. And this looks really bad for Republicans, but it also uses 2016 data as the baseline. So when you factor in that every year is not 2016, California 48 is very competitive. California 22 is very competitive. California 50, 25, 39, 49, 36, and 16. These are all districts Republicans could very easily win in a Republican wave here.
Yeah, basically, if you have a wave, a small wave even, not a gerrymander, but the map just starts to break. Like the lean goes away and you see a lot of seats becoming competitive.
Yeah. You could basically see the Republicans just pick up 9 seats in a year just because of the way the map works. And that is a nice feature of the map. And then going here, the curve is actually pretty reasonable. If you zoom in, there's very little vote and seat bias. Not that it's relevant because you'll ever see a 50-50 race in California. So I would love to see this map on the plotted on the insurance commissioner's race.
Yeah, the Poisoner versus
Laura.
Yeah, race.
Yeah. Poisoner, unlike a certain someone in Alaska who it may or may not be slept on, knows the first rule of being a strategic independent, which is don't say that you're a strategic independent.
Yeah, if you're gonna run and say you're not affiliated with the party, don't go out in interviews like, yeah, the only reason I'm running as an independent is I can't win with the party I'm a part of. So, like, really, that's not a great idea.
No, it just makes you look dishonest. But
yeah. So that's a good map, really good map. I think it's a good result. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I think it's a reasonable map. Do any of you all have any thoughts?
I thought it's pretty solid overall. If you want to do a map that's fairly similar to the current map, my map takes a different approach. If you want to segue into that, I made some assumptions at the commission. I think based on their behavior. And from what I've read, from what they think, what a map they might produce might look like. Although mine is, again, entirely hypothetical. This is a commission. We have no clue what a commission is going to do. The commission could just decide, you know what fair is? The fair is all the seats are going to match the average of California. Like, is that reasonable? No. Could they do it? Maybe. Like, it's just a difficult thing in predicting commissions, right? But as far as predictions go, that's a good prediction, in my opinion.
It's the unfortunate reality of handing over control of districts to unelected bureaucrats of unknowable motives and the ideas on how to do it.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead and explain what the assumptions are into my map before I show you the map. This is a 52 district map, so this assumes that California loses a congressional district. This appears to be the most likely scenario, although I've heard rumblings, for example, that Texas might not get a 39th seat. I've heard rumblings that Alabama may keep its 7th congressional district, so who knows? But again, this is assuming a 52 district map. This is what we think is the most likely given the current data. But of course, things could change. They could count really well, all sorts of stuff. So the assumptions. 1, I assume the commission would create a fair map. I assume they create a map that wouldn't look at partisan data. They'd rely a lot on county integrity, city integrity, all sorts of stuff. 2, I assume they really care about regional integrity, keeping specific regions together, ensuring proper representation. Given what I've read from them, I think there is a slight Democratic or liberal bias in the group, but I don't think this is necessarily a bias that might be reflected in the maps. It's more of an attitude thing. Even the Republicans, they're like, the people who are talking about maps aren't like, I want to draw a map to favor my party. They're like, I want to create a map that represents the state of California fairly. The third assumption I made, and I think this is the safest assumption of all, is I made this map to super protect and super represent Asian voters. Not super represent, but to ensure that Asian voters are very well represented, unlike the current map where arguably they get a lot fewer representatives than they're really entitled to if you look at their population. This is because one of the members of the commission, I'm probably going to butcher her name, Sarah Sadwani, is a professor and specifically focuses on Asian issues. She's talked specifically about how Asians are not being properly motivated into politics and aren't properly represented in politics. So uniquely, my map has 4 Asian plurality seats that would be likely to elect Asian representatives, and several more that could possibly elect Asian representatives. And this is, again, compactness, relying on districts, or relying on competitiveness and contiguity, not contiguity first and foremost, but it is possible to do it while doing that. So without further ado, I'll present you my map. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up over here. So the assumptions of this map, I'll go through district like Adam did, but I'm going to kind of go over the broad stuff first. So overall, I'm going to do this before I show you to give you an idea of what we're talking about before it. DRA loves my map. 100 in proportionality, 74 minority representation, really good compactness and splitting, and competitiveness is minor. My map is entirely contiguous. There's a couple of water-based precincts that I excluded, so the district will say that it's not contiguous, but the precincts that I did not include are entirely water. And also, the map kind of breaks overall because, go ahead, Adam. So the map kind of breaks overall in regard to the islands of California, which the islands of California are included in districts, but the map DRA kind of breaks overall when looking at this sort of stuff. So overall, it likes my map, and that's just the idea. So let's go district by district. Northern California, you'll notice, basically, in terms of where things end up to district number 25, the map is very similar to the current one. There's not a whole lot of change in where districts are and what they mean. So the first congressional district right here. Currently, the first is represented by Doug LaMalfa, but Doug LaMalfa actually lives in Butte County. He lives in the portion of Butte that is not in this district. So when I drew this seat, mainly what I was focusing on was topography. You'll notice right here that the mountains of California are kind of different. So this kind of draws in a lot of this mountain area. It goes into Butte County, sure. But overall, it's just designed to keep that region kind of intact. So overall, minorly Republican seat, I consider it likely R, but it's entirely possible it could elect a Democrat. This is a district with a 2-party vote. McCain would have won it by around 3% of the vote in 2008, and Trump would have won it by 11.1%, but only with around 52% of the vote. Certainly potentially competitive. 2 here is a little different because I drew this. I didn't include these upper 2 counties. I didn't include Humboldt, and I didn't include Del Norte County. I didn't include this county here as well. put the county names up on here so I can I didn't include Trinity County. So this mainly just kind of focused in on these lower counties here. A little portion of Sonoma County is excluded, and it's actually the portion that the incumbent representative in the second district, Jared Huffman, actually lives in. So you'd theoretically have to move, although it wouldn't be that difficult for him just to run in the district entirely. District number 3 takes in a lot of the lower mountain areas. So it takes in Butte County, it takes in Placer County, a lot of the Sierra Nevada areas the upper area of Sacramento overall. So I'll go ahead and zoom into it here. Places like Butte County and Placer County are a little bit competitive overall. In fact, they voted pretty narrowly for Hillary Clinton, if I recall right, or close to it. But this district would be fairly safe for Republicans. McCain would have won it by 11%, and Trump would have won it by 12.1%. This will be an open district. The current incumbent in the 4th, Tom McClintock, lives in Elk Grove. He lives in Sacramento, and he could actually run in the 7th, although it's entirely possible he moves to a different district. The 4th here, so I drew in the 4th, this little portion right here around this lake, South Lake Tahoe. I just drew that area in because it kind of fits. This is what I like to call ski country. So overall, this is a Republican seat. It's actually the most Republican seat, or the second most Republican seat in my map. And it draws in most of ski country, Death Valley, a couple of areas over here. It includes the Hispanic portions of these areas, and it also includes portions of Fresno, although none of the city of Fresno itself. So again, the 4th representative is Tom McClintock, but given Tom McClintock does not live in the seat, he would probably move or just operate in this district itself. District number 5 is represented by Mike Thompson at the moment, and I believe he lives in this district. If he doesn't, he could just move. Very Democratic district, obviously voted for Hillary Clinton by around 33 percentage points. No problem with Republicans winning the seat at all, or Democrats winning it at all. The 6th is another one. This is in Sacramento. This is basically just core Sacramento. If you look at voting age population, it's a very diverse seat. It's only 39% white. So it's entirely possible that a minority candidate would win. And in fact, the current representative in the district, Doris Matsui, is Asian. So it's entirely possible she holds it. The 7th district is currently represented by Amy Barra, and he would continue to represent it in this district. He actually lives in the same city as Tom McClintock, but it becomes a little bit more competitive here. This is a seat Hillary only won by 5.3 percentage points. And so he would have probably actually lost if this district had been the case for the previous decade. As it is, he's probably okay. But I actually have this as a leans Democratic, because it's very possible that an unpopular incumbent like Amy Barra would manage to lose this district. The 8th, like in Adams' map, is basically just San Bernardino's rural areas. San Bernardino is an enormous county, larger than some states. This district is probably larger than some states, and this is a very Republican district. It's a 54% Trump district. He won it by around 13.5. The new representative for this district, the current representative is retiring from this district. Paul Cook. He's running to represent on the San Bernardino Board of Supervisors. So he's actually jumping from a Congress to a county commission. Although given how big San Bernardino is, it's not actually a huge downgrade. But the new Republican who will win this district does live in the district, so there's no problems for them. The 9th, Jerry McNerney would probably have to move because he actually lives in Stockton. This district does not include doesn't actually include any of Stockton at all. You'll notice it cuts along the city borders here. I try to avoid drawing in too much here. It's a Democratic seat. It's only Hillary plus 31. This is probably the most conservative of the Bay Area districts overall, but obviously a Republican wouldn't be winning it. It's a plurality white seat. So 10 right here is actually Stockton. Currently, this district is represented in Congress by Josh Harder, who lives in Turlock, which is in Stanislaus County. He would not be in this district, and it would be a primary between him and McNerney in all likelihood, although he could obviously run in the different congressional district, which is the 16th. The 11th includes kind of these portions along the Bay. Very Democratic area. It's plurality white. So no problems here for the incumbent, I believe, unless he doesn't live there. The 12th is Nancy Pelosi's seat. It's a plurality non-white seat now. because it draws in a lot of the Asian areas. It also includes this islands over here that are uninhabited. They're really no other than that nobody lives there, and they're one of the few islands that San Francisco inexplicably has. So the 13th district is the Barbara Lee district. This is, again, a plurality non-white district. It's 42% white. Republicans would have no shot here. In fact, the Green Party might win more votes than them on occasion. 14th is Jackie Spears' seat. San Mateo, Redwood City, Daly City, really Democratic areas. Plurality non-white. In theory, an Asian candidate could run here and make some noise, but we'd have to see. 15 is a big change at the moment. The current 15th district is represented by Eric Swalwell and is a plurality white seat. This new seat is actually plurality Asian. It's 39% Asian, draws in Fremont, some areas in these counties over here. Very Democratic, and actually has an Asian Democrat would have a good time winning in this district, I would think. So Eric Swalwell would probably be out of luck. The 16th district all of a sudden is most of Modesto and Merced. So this is Central Valley, and it would be very competitive. It would be a Democrat plus a 7 district. Jim Costa currently represents it. So Josh Harder would probably challenge him in a primary. It's a plurality non-white district, although not by much. This is made up for with other districts later on. Just in the right circumstances, a Republican could win it. John McCain came within 5% here overall. The 17th draws into San Jose. You're probably wondering why I had this weird little spurt out into the mountains right here, the 17th. But if you notice this right here, this portion that I drew in to the 17th is nobody lives there. Like literally no one lives there. There's like 1,000 people that live there, and I just included it because I could. So it's really not a big deal for anyone. Nobody would really care that much. This is another plurality Asian seat, 45%. The current representative in the 17th district, Rokana, is Asian, so he'd probably be fine. The 18th is a very, very white district. It's also very Democratic. It's 76% Democratic. The current representative for the 18th is Anna Eshoo, and she would probably be able to win this district without a whole lot of problems. The 19th is another white district that could potentially have some competition. It's only 39% white, so a Hispanic Asian coalition could definitely flip it. The 20th right here is actually a little bit more competitive than it looks on paper. It's a pretty white district and it has areas like Salinas and San Luis Obispo. This is actually a district that trended a little bit unusually in 2016 overall, but Republicans would not be winning it. The 21st is a big shift from the current. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion over what this means. So this district becomes a very overwhelmingly Hispanic district that is slightly Republican. So this would be a district that David Valdo would actually have a pretty good shot winning. So this is the Hispanic areas of Bakersfield or Kern County, Tulare, and Fresno. This actually has trended Democratic overall. Democrats gained a lot of strength, so it's not like the district wouldn't be competitive. But given it's a 53% Hispanic CVAP, that's citizen voting age population, this would be fine as a majority minority district. Keep in mind, majority minority district, VRA district, does not mean Democrat district. You can't have VRA seats that lean towards Republicans overall. The 22nd is another VRA district. It's a 41% white, 38% Hispanic, and it represents the core of Fresno. This would actually be a highly competitive district at state level. The mayor of Fresno has at points been a Republican. I believe the current mayor is a Republican. Former mayor Ashley Swearingen was a Republican. So entirely possible that even though this is a district that votes generally Democratic at the federal level now, that a Republican could make some noise here. The 23rd is, of course, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader's district, and it's the most Republican district in the state at 55.3% Republican. This is a very safe district. Republicans would have no chance at losing this, although if you'll notice, it's on the verge of being a majority-minority district by CVAP. 24 is another district that could, in theory, be competitive at some point. It has Santa Barbara, sorts of areas in Ventura County, but it's just too Democratic at this point. The 25th is actually pretty similar to the current one. If you'll notice right here, I drew in the San Gabriel Mountains, but I didn't draw anything into the city itself. There's a few precincts right here. This draws in most of of the big city right there that Republicans really do well in. And it's very similar to the current district. If Mike Garcia wins his current district, he should have the same odds of winning in this district. The 26th is another district that's Democratic. It's majority white, doesn't really matter too much. Here's where things start to get a little bit different. The 27th, the new 27th district in my map is plurality Asian. Judy Chu's district, it's currently Asian so far at 38%, but this one is much more Asian. It's 42% Asian, so she would be even a better situation here. And if you notice, one thing I made a big deal of in my map is keeping cities mostly intact. So you'll notice in LA County that most of my districts try to keep cities as intact as they can be overall. The 28th district, if you'll notice it right here, is a majority white district. This contains areas like Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena, a very Democratic area overall. The 29th is a Hispanic district now, if it wasn't already. And so the current Democrat would have no problem winning this district. The 30th is a white district. It kind of stretches in some of these areas of LA that are white overall. This is Brad Sherman's district, so he would probably be all right here. The 31st district is over in San Bernardino County due to numbering, and this is a very Democratic district. It's a Hispanic district, Hillary plus 35. No problem with Democrats winning this. The 32nd now does not go into San Bernardino at all, and it remains Hispanic, although there is a sizable Asian minority population within the district. It's actually more competitive in this one than the 31st district if you look at it. Hillary only won this one by 31 percentage points. Another one that took a lot of change here was the 33rd. So this one draws in from rolling hills and portions of these areas along here, these coastal areas. If you take a look at their vote, even though I didn't look at votes while drawing this, there are some pockets of Republican strength there. And so unsurprisingly, this is not an extremely overwhelmingly Democratic district as it could be. I also drew in all of California's Channel Islands into the 33rd, just as a matter of contiguity, even though it splits counties a little bit. I figured they're all uninhabited, might as well put them in the same district. They're all uninhabited, of course, except for this one right here, this island, which has two harbors and Avalon, so popular resort areas for tourists. The 34th district, you'll notice right here, is in the center of the LA County. The 35th district is over in Riverside County, and it's a Hillary plus 15 district. I have this one rated in my totals as a safe Democratic, although in theory a Republican could win this in a blue wave, but it's pretty unlikely. The 36th, again, is very similar to the current 36th. The incumbent, Raul Reyes, would have no problem winning this district, even though it's in theory a competitive one. 37th is a white district in LA County. This has areas like Beverly Hills, West Hollywood. It's not too interesting beyond that, other than being very, very Democratic. The 38th is another Hispanic district, 70% overall. Although surprisingly, it's a little bit more Republican than you might expect because of an Asian population that's kind of adjacent to Orange County. So very Hispanic and surprisingly not as Democratic as it could be. The 39th is another Asian district. It stretches into Orange County, LA County, and San Bernardino. It's Orange County and LA County. And you'll notice right here, this is again another Asian district I drew. This is a Democratic district, Hillary plus 18. Republicans would not win this district, although it's not as Democratic as a lot of the other ones based in Orange and LAC. The 40th right here is another Democratic one, 89% Democratic, not a lot to talk about. The 41st district is in Riverside County, and it's a Hillary plus 17 district, very Democratic, plurality Hispanic, not a whole lot to talk about. The 42nd is Ken Calvert's seat, and he actually gets the short end of the stick here because it comes a little bit more Democratic. It's only a Trump plus 7 seat, although Ken Calvert would probably be all right in the district overall. If you notice, it's actually pretty similar to how it voted in 2008, so not a whole lot of change here. The 43rd is also a big change. It is a plurality African-American seat. It draws in portions of Inglewood. It draws in all of Compton. I drew this intentionally. I wanted to make sure African-Americans had a voice in the state of California, and this can be done, so there's no reason not to do it. It's a compact district. The The 43rd is currently represented in Congress by Maxine Waters, so she actually gets a better district for herself here. The 44th is a very diverse district. You notice it's plurality Hispanic, draws in most of Long Beach, which is the second biggest city in LA County. And it's just an interesting district overall. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top here. The 45th district is Katie Porter's district. As Adam said, this is a Democratic trending seat. It's a Hillary +5 district. Porter would probably be fine here. The 46th is a Hispanic seat. Santa Ana, Anaheim. Again, Democrats would be safe here. Linda Sanchez would be just fine. The 47th actually gets a little bit more Republican here. It's a Republican seat by around 4,000 votes, stretches from Huntington Beach to Newport Beach to some areas along the coast. So Republicans would have a better shot at taking the seat back from. Actually, it's because of the vote loss. This is a new district entirely. So Adam Lowenthal's district, which was previously Long Beach, along with those Catalina Island, he would be losing his district, and he would have to run somewhere else. This is because Southern California is where the district is lost from. The 48th is a very competitive district, as you can see here, within 200 votes, or as Adam said, it's a rounding error in DRA overall. So a very competitive seat, although I would think that the incumbent, Lavelle, has an advantage here. 49th is San Diego County overall. Democrat +23, in theory, could have been competitive in the past. Scott Peters should be fine. The 50th district is a Duncan Hunter seat, and he probably does fine here. Overall, I mean, there's not a whole lot of problems for him. It does kind of take that desert stretch, although I do think there is a reason to include Imperial with Chula Vista and some of these San Diego areas, which is to keep Hispanics together and to keep the border community together. So overall, I think it's a fair district for Hunter. It's a Republican +11, so he'd probably win it, but who knows? The 51st is the Hispanic seat, very overwhelmingly Democratic, Democrat +40, and then finally the 52nd is portions of San Diego overall. So overall, this map, I have it marked out as to what the total would be. I have a spreadsheet that I developed just for this map because I was really so excited about this map. Nunez lives in, I missed this earlier. Nunez lives in Tulare. A lot of incumbents would be out of a district in this map, but that happened last time. There's no reason to suspect that the commission would be against getting incumbents out of seats because they were willing to do it last time. So overall, this district on paper, according to my personal ratings, 41 safe Democratic districts, 8 Republican districts that are favored, and 3 toss-ups. Although, again, there are seats that could vote for a Democrat that are Republican-leaning and seats that could vote for a Republican that are Democrat-leaning. So overall, Hillary would have won 43 of these districts. Obama would have won 42 of them. So not a whole lot of change there. There are a few that have flipped, but not really that much. So that's my map. The assumption, again, here was kind of a fair map that was would make sure the Asian interests were pretty well accounted for. So that ends my rant. I can barely speak at this point. But any thoughts on my map?
I thought it was very good. I mean, I definitely took a different approach, but you definitely, did a good thing. Because I mean, Asian voters are a very new force in California politics, and I think they're going to demand a lot more representation. And I'm not going to
slam the commission for that last time, but out of all the demographic groups, Asians were really entitled to more representatives than they got. And for that matter, African Americans, having that African American seat in LA County, for example.
I think also this decade, there's a higher critical mass of Asian voters in the places where they can actually draw congressional districts for them now, just because of people moving in and just general population growth versus what happened.
I think it's pretty justifiable, and I think this is the one given out of the commission, the cycle, given what I've read from her, Sarah Sandwani, which is that she's adamant that Asian Americans need to be more involved in politics and need to have more opportunities to be part of politics, and that comes from properly having them represented within congressional and legislative districts. So I think we'll go ahead and throw it to Nick. He's been kind of patiently waiting to show his map. But he's actually got multiple maps. He's got legislative maps, Senate, Assembly, all sorts of stuff. So
I do, yeah. And like I'm a bit pressed for time, so I probably won't go like district by district like you two did. But but I will like give like an overview of each map. It might take about 10-15 minutes to do that.
Yep. Sounds good.
Would it be okay if I
Oh yeah,
if
send
I
me the
open
map.
up a new
Yep.
screen, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
so like, yeah, because I haven't managed to get them up on my iPad. Like, I can, yeah, I haven't. Can I just open up a second? Can I open up a second
Oh, yeah.
screen? Because
Yeah,
like,
go ahead.
I think
Yeah,
it
do
will
it.
only work on my laptop. Yeah. Your browser doesn't support. Okay, just 1 second.
Oh, excuse me. I had McDonald's if you saw my tweet, I had McDonald's for dinner, so
Understandable.
was in fact loving it. So yeah.
Hang on.
Just send me the maps if you can't use them, and I can kind of draw through them like we do in the map room.
I just need 1 second. Yeah, I think I can get it up now. Here we go.
There we go. I see it. Yep.
Okay, I got it.
You just got to connect it, and then it'll work.
Connect what? Connect.
It says this device is not connected.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll need to connect. Yeah, you'll need to turn the mic and
Okay.
screen on. Yep. Sorry for the delay here. We're just getting this set up so you can show the maps.
Oh, here we go. Got it.
Yep. So obviously, lots of California stuff tonight. So we're probably going to be here for another hour or so at least. Hour and a half. Probably if Harrison has time to come on.
Here we go. Got it.
Yep. So
yeah.
go ahead and share the screen.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Got it. Okay. Oh my god. I'm sorry. It's just.
Oh, that's all right. We probably should have tested beforehand.
Yeah. It's Yeah. Here we go.
Not a big deal.
Oh,
the maps will be worth it.
It's asking me to quit. Okay.
Just send me to them like a Google, or send me the image in the chat, and I'll upload them.
Yeah, no, I think it's okay. I think I've just got one more thing to do. Yeah, I think this will be quicker, but it's just pulling me away to all sorts of different pages. So okay, I think I've got it now. It's just loading now.
But yeah, I actually got my California map done last week just to make sure I had time to redo it. I'm glad I did, because my original one had the split in Northern California all wrong. I split it north to south instead of east to west. Or actually split it. Yeah, I split it so like it was more of like a sandwich split, and it really didn't work. It kind of split across the mountains a couple times. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Looks great. Wow.
Okay, is it working?
Yep, it works great. Yeah. Looks perfect.
Okay, so this is my
wow.
Okay, so this is my California map. Okay, I'll just bring up I'll bring up the data redistricting app first, because like this is the version of the map that I drew originally. Yeah. Fun fact about California, fun fact about California before I start. The way they number the districts, at least the way they did it this decade, was actually from north to south of the northernmost point of each district. So so that's something you might not have known. So that's exactly how I did it. That's why the district numbers might look a bit funny.
Yeah, I tried to avoid renumbering anything. But that was hard.
Yeah, like that's what I do with most maps. But okay, yeah. So this is my map. As I said, I probably won't have time to go through the map. Okay, it's not district by district, but I will go over some of the main areas. Now, this is Clinton-Trump map. In the current map, Trump won 7 of the 53 districts. In this one, Trump won 7 of the 52 districts, and this is a 52 district map. I'm assuming they will lose a district. I drew this a couple of days ago. Yeah, so like, first of all, going over the partisan composition, like they most of these maps in like most of these districts in North and Central California have like are like pretty similar to the current ones. The first district's quite similar. It takes in those areas in the Central Valley that the current one doesn't. Second district is very similar to the current second district. I know Eric doesn't agree with the way this is drawn. We had a bit of a disagreement on this yesterday, but
in the group
chat. This is the way I do it. This is the way I draw it. I think I draw it this way because it sort of works geographically. There's sort of a mountain range going around this area, and like I generally try to avoid splitting or cutting across mountain ranges. Like that's sort of one of my hot takes. I sort of think that going over mountain ranges is more of a violation of contiguity than going over water, which I actually do in this one. Like this district here is in the Bay Area, and actually like joins a lot of those areas. And this would actually be an open seat. Interestingly, I drew Mike Thompson and John Garamendi into the same district here. So if neither of them retires, they might have a primary between those two, and that essentially leaves this seat open. I do that with a lot of these districts. This one here, this sort of geographically doesn't make sense, but there's not really many other ways to go over the Central Valley. I have two like clear Central Valley seats, ignoring those bits over there, and this essentially takes the bit that spills over, as well as the western part, sorry, the eastern part of that's not Contra Costa County, is it? I
think it might
can't
be.
remember, but
Or is that Alameda?
Alameda County, that was it. Those eastern areas of that county are very
I think it looks nice,
distinct
personally.
geographically. This one actually puts Jerry McNerney and Eric Swalwell into the same district, so that will probably be another primary.
Well, we're not really primary because in California there's the top two, so it'd be a Democrat versus Democrat.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Sort of like as Eric says, the California Commission doesn't really care about incumbency. Like, in fact, they're actually forbidden from using residency information when they're redrawing the map. So I completely ignored that. So I have to assume there will be some incumbent versus incumbent races. Going down a bit, this district down here, this will probably be a bit harder for Mike Garcia to win. Like the sort of rural mountainous areas of LA County, they're definitely like swingy, but then it takes in some of LA County. This is because it won't fit into a whole seat. It does take in some of those bits of LA County, like around this area, and that does make it kind of blue. I think this was let me double check. That's coincidentally named numbered the 25th. Like, I wasn't trying to do that. Yeah, double digit lead for Clinton. So Mike Garcia could hold a seat. He could be a strong enough incumbent after a few terms if he does win in 2020.
It's just hard for an incumbent to do that.
It would be hard for him. The 7th district, which takes in most of what the 8th district has, I actually kept that the same. This is because the Sierra Nevada, that's around this area, and that's pretty much the only way to draw that seat without splitting without cutting across the Sierra Nevada. The bits to the west of the Sierra Nevada include a lot of what's in Devin Nunes' current district. So he'd probably run there again. It's fairly safe for Republicans. Also, something that the current map doesn't do, that my map does, is draw districts that keep together Fresno and Bakersfield. I drew individual districts for both of those cities. I don't think there's any VRA complications with this, but as I said earlier, I think this is because the commission sort of wants to follow on from what what happened in the last decade. In the last decade, Bakersfield was in that Central Valley seat, which was at the time was represented by Jim Costa, who lives in Fresno. The district actually included Fresno at the time, so that's why he moved. Okay, where was that next? This district is harder to win for Democrats. It's about Clinton plus 6, so still very Democratic, but not as much as the current district. And this has had a Republican representative for most of the decade, so it could be a difficult hold. Okay, going south. Okay, another thing I did was got a black district in LA County. Now, by some measures, this is impossible to do. Like they're so spread out in LA that it's pretty hard to get African Americans into okay, you can't really see the borders, but they're sort of around here.
Yeah, but they're concentrated around like Compton and around. They're not Compton so much anymore, but in the areas adjacent to it in the county, some of the cities.
Yeah. So yeah, they're in these sorts of areas. By Citizen VAP, it's a majority black district, just about like it's 50.4%, I believe. Actually, I have it here somewhere. 50.4%. But by total population, it actually lags quite a lot. It's a majority Hispanic seat, but that's not the measure that they use. 39th district next to it is actually very heavily Hispanic. It's about 85.2%. I believe the current version of that, which is represented by I forget who it was represented by, but yeah, I think it's the most heavily Hispanic seat in the country.
Yeah, there's a lot of undocumented residents in LA County, to be sure. I mean, you can see that massive swing in the total in CVAP.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that does sound right. Hang on, let me. Yeah, massive difference there. And that takes about those are. You don't really get many interesting races in LA County apart from that bit in the north. They'll all be safe Democratic. This one's a bit lighter, but as Eric will say, it's only Clinton plus 30. I'm not sure. It's somewhere around 30 points. But like going into Orange County, this is where it gets a lot more interesting. And this is another bit of the commission, which I think of the current map, which I think is a bit flawed. Now, there's this bit in the southeast portion of the county, typically more Republican than actually. I'm going to get the DRA map on because this shows it quite well if you get the precinct lines up. This area is essentially separated from the rest of the county. It's sort of less suburban. It's not really, strictly speaking, LA suburbs. But in the current map, this is actually split 3 ways, despite the fact that this could be considered a community of interest. Part of it is in Katie Porter's district, which includes Irving. Part of it's in Harley Ruder's, and part of it is in Mike Levin's district now, which is the current 49th. Now that last one is one that doesn't really make sense to me because you've got this huge military base in San Diego County, which separates. I believe it is a military base. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it is this huge, like massive, mostly unpopulated space. Actually, it's quite populated, but yeah, it's very rural. That's my point. But very much separated.
It's not connected. The 2 areas aren't really connected, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm getting at. But yeah, the current district does take in a lot of that Orange County bit, which I mean, every district which has that bit is made more red by it because this is quite a red area. If you look at the 47th district, this is Trump plus 3.7. I'm just going to see what it is if you take out this bit. It won't be 1 second. Okay, it doesn't get much more red, but a Trump district in Orange County is probably going to be safe Democratic because you still got a lot of those suburban conservative voters, mainly like economically right wing. I believe. I'm not sure. I've never been to Orange County, but I believe this is that's sort of what these voters will be like. So yeah, a lot of people who could swing back to Republicans. So it is very hard to imagine a Democrat taking the seat. Maybe if an incumbent ran, like I believe Mike Levin and Harley Ruder both live in this district, but they probably want to avoid it. They have much more winnable districts to run in, so they'll probably want to move. Yeah, this 48th district right here. Now this is an interesting one because it looks a lot like the current 50th, but actually there is very little overlap. A lot of the cities like Escondido and not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and that one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Yeah, they were both in Duncan Hunter's, well, I say current district, even though he's not in Congress anymore. But yeah, most of this district is actually in Riverside County. This would largely overlap with the current 48th district represented by Ken Calvert. He doesn't live in the district; he lives in Corona, but he would probably be wise to move as well. You'd have a lot of people moving if they want to win, like in this map. That's one takeaway of it. It's not very favorable for incumbents. And then the last one I want to talk about, like, is this is like what's going on with Imperial County. And like what I did, the current map, I talked about this earlier. The current map joins Imperial County, which is heavily Hispanic. It's about 83%. Yeah, there we go, 83%. With this bit of southern San Diego, and a lot of its southern suburbs. This district doesn't make sense to me, really, because
it's combining rural Hispanics, like growing country with San Diego.
Yeah, and I think they're essentially just doing it to keep Hispanics together, but that's pretty much all it does. Like my district is majority Hispanic. I don't really think you need that. Like by any measure, even by Citizen VAP, which very much underestimates Hispanics. And I believe so is my 38th. I mean, okay, 38th is sort of majority minority.
Pretty good.
But,
yeah, that's still pretty good overall.
Yeah, 38th does overlap a lot with the current 36th, which is Raul Ruiz's district. This does become more heavily Democratic. I think this is D+20. I think the current one is like D+8. That Imperial County bit definitely does make it blue, and it does keep in the whole of this Salton Sea area. Salton Sea is there, and the drainage basin of that is
the accidental sea.
Yeah,
shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard stories. Yeah, but yeah, it does keep this whole area together, which is something the current map actually fails to do. And yeah, that's all I have on that one. And I kind of want to be gone soon because it's approaching. It's getting quite late over here. So yeah, I'll just quickly go over my state legislative maps. Now I mentioned earlier that I'll get out the Senate map first. Okay, it's decided not to show. It does this sometimes. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so this is my state Senate map. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know a lot about what the state Senate map is now, but there are some bits that are very imperfect about it, and it is weird.
The current map is very weird.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, yeah.
There's only 40 senators in all of California. That's absurd. I'm sorry. I don't want to get too much, but that's more than 1 million people per Senate district.
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's like easily the biggest.
More people live in these districts than live in some states.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, easily the highest ratio of senators to people. And the same with the House. Like, I think California and Texas are the only, their senates are the only ones to have more people per district than in congressional districts, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, because some may argue that the House is small enough as it is. Now you've got California.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah. So this is my Senate map, and as I mentioned earlier, you have the California Constitution actually mandates that you have 2 assembly districts. The state assembly is what they call the House. I'm not sure why they do it. I think they just want to be different. but
so there's 80 assemblymen and there's 40 senators.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
2 to 1. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. In theory, it's supposed to be two assembly districts to 1 Senate district. They're supposed to draw them within, but what they did this year was just ignored it because of VRA purposes. But I didn't, pretty much. Sorry, this is overlapping now. This is my
Oh, wow. That's a coastal district for Republicans. Wow.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure if this is going by 2012 results. It might be. I can fix that quickly.
Oh, you got my hopes up.
Yeah, I do think that's a Romney Clinton district.
Aw, dang
yeah.
it. No.
I can double check. It's still definitely winnable.
You took away my hope, my dream. Just one random Republican district in the middle of California.
I think it's still definitely very winnable.
Oh, yeah, 2,000 stalls.
This is going to take ages. To load. Yeah, I think the Senate might be going by 20. I think it might actually. Yeah, this is also 2012 results.
Close enough, I guess.
Yeah, it's. I can confirm later. My DRA is going to take ages to load. I probably don't want to.
From experience.
Yeah, but I can check on it earlier.
Go ahead and explain some of these districts. I guess what the totals would be and whatnot.
Yeah. So I think it's about a similar balance to similar balance of power to the current to what you got in my congressional map. So you probably got about like 10. Okay, let me just count them because I've completely forgotten how many were. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe 15, and the Senate is sort of a similar balance. You got a red Central Valley seat here, which you probably wouldn't have under the current map.
Yeah, that's about similar to what there is right now. There's only 17 Republicans in the 80-member assembly.
Yeah, exactly. And Orange County has 2 seats as well. As I said, like these will probably be safe because they're not swinging further than they already are. In my opinion, they might. I don't know. Like they could. It might happen, but if Trump's winning an Orange County seat, they're probably going to go red down ballot. That's my point. Yeah, like I do have a district which takes in all of that southeastern part of Orange County. Like that's about Trump plus 8, so I'd say very safe. This takes in a lot of those northern parts. Like I'm not really too familiar with the area, but yeah, it is Republican leaning, and yeah, the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. I carried on with the Salton Sea district. This is actually a lot more square. It's a lot more satisfying of a shape, so I'm quite happy with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I might need to go now because
that's fine. Yeah, no, you got through everything. Those are fantastic. Yeah, we'll try to post most of these maps on Twitter afterwards or something for people who are listening or watching them. But yeah, really, really good stuff there, especially the legislative stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah, I'm probably going to need to go now. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
Fantastic maps. Yeah, definitely really good. Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks. Yeah. See ya.
All right. All right, so Armin, I think it's time for your maps. I know you took a little bit of a different approach in drawing yours than some of the rest of us have done, but that's a good thing because we have no clue what this commission is going to draw.
Right.
That's one of the interesting things about commissions. Is they're
Just
unpredictable.
a disclaimer: California is not my my strong suit in terms of geography. I mean, it's a huge state, and I've only really been to San Francisco, so I'm just relying on everything that I know about.
Hey, better than me. I've never been to California, so. I don't think I've ever been west of Detroit.
Oh, yeah. I think the only time I've ever been west of Virginia was the Dallas airport once and going to California. So, yeah.
Detroit was an airport, yeah.
So everybody can see my screen here?
Oh, here it is. The statted it? Perfect.
So, yeah, I have made a 52-seat map with the assumption that California loses 1 seat, and my main criteria was trying to keep the municipalities that the incumbents live in whole, and then just adding, nearby municipalities that already exist in the district. So I guess let's go district by district here. So first things first, we have district number 1. And this covers most of the North State, and it's the most Republican district in the state. It's Trump plus 23. And Obama or McCain plus 14, and it's R plus 12. So yeah, I'm pretty confident calling this a safe R seat. LaMalfa on paper now is currently vulnerable. He lives in Oroville, which I believe is in Butte County.
It is.
So he gets to keep this seat. He gets to have it for as long as he wants. Not really much to say here. Moving on to District 2. So I know that, there are tons of different ways to draw this district. And if we're going off of a pure COI perspective, I would not draw it this way. But given that, this is a commission and I don't exactly know what they're going to do. My guess is that they were going to try to keep the current lines as much as they can, especially with, trends working in their favor. So Jared Huffman, he lives in San Rafael, which is in Marin County down here. As you can see, it's right there. And Marin is heavily, heavily, heavily Democratic. I mean, frankly, every county, with the exception of Trinity and Del Norte, is very heavily Democratic. So he shouldn't have any problem here. I know, Eric, you kept Mendocino and Humboldt in 2 separate seats. But as you and I have talked, these 3 counties here make up the Weed Coast Triangle thing.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you have to do, it's always got to keep the weed growers happy.
I kept there because they're generally grouped with the state of Jefferson, which is like the secessionist California movement.
That makes sense. I can see the arguments for. I mean, these are both heavily Democratic. Anyway, Mendocino, Humboldt. I mean, even Del Norte is somewhat swingy, and Trump really did inflate the partisanship of it somewhat. Which is why I'm not as comfortable pairing it with the areas over here, which are much more, like Modoc or Siskiyou or Shasta, which are much more Republican.
Jerry Brown won it in 2010, I think, if I recall right.
What, Del Norte?
Yeah, he won it. Yeah.
Yeah, he might. I would not be surprised if he did. I mean, Jared Huffman won it in 2016 and then very narrowly lost it in 2018. So it is still somewhat swingy. So moving on, District 3, I believe, is John Garamendi. Now, this area has seen somewhat of a rightward trend, but Garamendi is a very strong incumbent and shouldn't, face that much trouble. Now, he lives in this tiny little tendril of Sacramento County in, I want to say, Walnut Grove. Yeah, Walnut Grove. It's right there. And so he gets to take some of these rurals up here, some of the Lake County, very swingy, Colusa, Glen.
Jerry Brown at this point. He's moved there, much to the chagrin of his neighbors. There's actually a funny article about it. Is his neighbors are having to learn to have the Democrat they hated as their neighbor.
Yeah, and then it just takes in some of these like exurbs of San Francisco, if you want to call them that, in eastern Contra Costa County, and Solano, and it goes into some of the wine country region over here. So then District 4, Tom McClintock's. I mean, the partisanship doesn't change that much. This is R plus 9, Trump plus 11 or so. So in theory, a good enough moderate Democrat could probably, make McClintock sweat a bit. I mean, his home of Elk Grove is put into the district. And so, he doesn't have to move. And, it's got Lake Tahoe. It's got Alpine County, which is really Democratic, but really tiny for some reason.
Ski country.
Oh, okay, that explains it.
It's one of those small ski towns.
Yeah, and then Amador, Calaveras, these are all Republican counties, but they aren't, blood red Republican in the way that, say, like Modoc or Shasta are. So there's room for something to happen, but it's still a likely R seat.
Placer in particular is getting increasingly competitive as Sacramento's kind of started to encroach into it.
Yeah, Placer. Yeah, it's only R plus 12 here.
Yeah, I believe Hillary Clinton won it, or it got very close to winning it.
Oh, well, Hillary lost it by 12 here.
Oh, she lost Placer?
Yeah,
no, Placer County I'm talking about.
Yeah, Placer County she lost by 12.
Huh.
I don't know. How does this work? Oh, yeah, Obama lost it by a similar margin. So I don't know. Maybe the suburban part in the south of the county.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was a different county. It was a rural one right above it. My bad.
Oh, Nevada. Oh yeah,
Nevada County.
Oh yeah, Nevada. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So 5 over here. Mike Thompson. He gets wine country, Napa, Solano, Sonoma. Very safely Democratic. Not too much to say here. I mean, it is 52% white. So in theory, given the predilections of white liberals to, kick out white incumbents for progressive minority challengers, he could be in trouble in a primary, but I highly doubt it. Then 6 over here, Sacramento, really not much that changes. Doris Matsui gets a minority coalition seat here. She's fine. 7 is Ami Bera. He gets the other half of Elk Grove, as well as some of these, suburbs of Sacramento in Placer County. This is Clinton plus 11, it seems. Obama only won it by 5 in 2008, so it's definitely one of the places that's trended somewhat leftward.
Yeah. Bush might have actually won it in 2004. He came very close to winning Sacramento County as a whole.
Yeah, if he came that close to winning the county, he probably did win this seat. Then
it was within like a couple thousand votes, if I recall right.
Yeah, no. So this district 10 years ago would have been somewhat of a competitive race, but with the way the GOP is heading, I don't see this becoming competitive for the foreseeable future. So then 8 just becomes the giant monstrosity on the eastern border. I mean, it's just there, like Tuolumne, Mariposa, the wider parts of Madera and Fresno, as well as Mono, Inyo, and then this giant rural thing of San Bernardino. And so Jay Obernold is the likely victor in November, and he lives in Big Bear Lake, which is in the south of San Bernardino. So he gets a Trump plus 20 seat there. That again is not going to flip.
No one. Yeah, for those who are unfamiliar with San Bernardino, nobody lives in most of the county. It's desert.
Most of the people live in the southwestern portion here. Like all of this just has nobody.
It's literally, you can look at a precinct map of it. Look at a municipality's map of it, and it's incredible how barren it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There's an army base somewhere here that's like really Democratic, but that's like the only decent sized population outside of the cities in the Southwest.
I think there's one like on the border with Arizona, one small town.
Yeah, probably. So the 9 over here, Jerry McNerney keeps a nice, somewhat maybe competitive seat, Clinton plus 15. So like in a really bad year for Democrats, maybe this could become a likely or a lean Democratic seat. But given how Republicans have been doing in suburbs lately, he should be fine. It is a minority coalition seat though, so he might have a primary to watch on his hands later. So not too much to say there. 10, Jeff Denham has a Clinton plus 5 seat with Merced, as well as all of Stanislaus and, a tiny little promontory of Merced there in the west. Obama won it both times. With the way the trends are going, I highly doubt he's in any trouble. I mean, isn't the GOP running like an alt-right person against him or something this time?
Not alt-right, but he had a history of racist Facebook posts that he attributed to an intern, which is just generally not a good sign.
Yeah, and
He
in
said
a
someone
minority,
someone had control over his account that was not him.
Yeah,
Certainly not him. It could not have been him, of course.
in a minority white district, you're not going to run that kind of a message and win. Is the point?
Mhm.
So Josh Harder should be likely fine.
Mhm.
Now,
and it's interesting as some of that area like Modesto is getting more and more tied with the Bay Area.
Yeah,
Central
exactly.
Valley.
Yeah, no, I mean the real Democratic powerhouse of the seat is Merced, because Modesto is still quite swingy here, as we can see in Stanislaus County. Now 11 is basically just a bunch of Contra Costa suburbs. Marc Desaulniers lives in Concord, so nothing too crazy to report here. Again, D plus 19, so he is absolutely fine. Then, for all of the Shahid Buttar fans out here, the 12th district covers most of San Francisco. Nancy Pelosi lives somewhere here and is not going to ever lose this seat unless she, loses it in the coffin. So, I mean, there's nothing really to say about it. I mean, it's San Francisco. It's majority minority, but Nancy Pelosi has very strong ties. And, the only real vulnerability she has are, people who have an axe to grind with her, in terms of leftist socialists or something like that.
Green Party activists.
Yeah, exactly. So, like Shahid Buttar types or something. So 13
is...
Yeah. So 13 is East Bay, Berkeley, Oakland, Alameda, and, just a tiny little bit of this for nice water contiguity stuff, Union City. Barbara Lee lives here in Oakland. She gets a pretty diverse seat here. This is kind of like the Texas 22 of the state. It's got lots of different demographics represented. So she, and again, look at that. It's D plus 40. So she's absolutely invulnerable.
And fun fact, one of the commissioners is the rarest of rarities. One of the people on the Independent Commission, a Republican from Berkeley.
Did they go to guy in a lab? How'd they get this guy?
She's a liberal professor. She's literally a liberal. She's a registered Republican. So
I see.
She's one of the 5 of them in Berkeley.
Yeah, that can make sense. Oh yeah, also 12 has these, random, penguin islands or whatever they're called. I don't know.
Nuclear waste deposit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're like an island for scientific research or something, but nobody lives. But,
we used to dump nuclear waste off of them until we realized, wait a second, that's going to go back into the bay. So we stopped doing that.
So Nancy Pelosi, might have a primary challenge from, the Puffin constituency or something. But
I'm just going to figure out what those islands are, because San Francisco has a ton of small islands that should not be part of a small city.
Well, so these are the North Farallon Islands State Marine Reserve. Yeah,
the Farallon Islands. Yeah.
Yeah, so 14 over here. This is Jackie Spear. She lives.
Oh wow, they look nice.
Rocky. I want to say she lives in Hillsborough in San Mateo County, which is right there. So, she gets another minority coalition seat. Lots of Asians in the area that she has good relationships with. So nothing too crazy to report there. Now it's Eric Swalwell who made his name running for president on passing the torch and, flatulence on TV or whatever that is.
Banning all guns.
Was that him? I can't.
He was the one who proposed the assault weapon buyback.
Okay, and then Beto took it further. Beto, we're going to mandate that you do that. Yeah.
Eric Swalwell's campaign failed, and so Beto was like, you know what? I want to do that too.
Beto. Yeah, so Swalwell, I mean, it's still a 40% white district. And, he's liked well enough by people here. I mean, his home of Dublin is fully in the seat. So I don't think he's going to be vulnerable. Now, the first actually interesting thing in the map is 16. So Jim Costa, who represents it, is from Fresno, which I cut a couple of ways to, keep incumbents happy and the like. And, he gets somewhat of a competitive seat. Obama plus 1, Clinton plus 2. It's an R plus 1 seat.
Elizabeth Heng could have beaten him. Wow.
This is a 40, it's just barely plurality white, but, Jim Costa he's Hispanic, but he's a white Hispanic, so I suppose that might help. But, it's got Madera in it. It's got, some Hispanic parts of Fresno, but it's also got Clovis, which I think is very Republican. So this would be a legitimate fair fight seat.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is fairly moderate by California standards, so I don't think he's going to be in too much trouble. But in a red wave year, David Valadao definitely has a good shot at running in this seat because 21, as we'll talk about, becomes much more difficult for him.
Yeah, he's a blue dog. He's part of the blue dog caucus.
Yeah, right now I have 16 as lean Democratic, which I think is fair given the current environment. But in 2022, if Biden wins, this could be something the Republicans, if they run a Mike Garcia type candidate, could really take back.
Yeah, Ashley Swearingen or someone along that line.
Yeah. So then 17 here, I think is an Asian majority seat. I think the current one is like that. Ro Khanna takes Fremont, Sunnyvale. I'm Indian. I have relatives in Sunnyvale, so it fits his demographic very well. But again, very safely Democratic. Not much to say here. Then 18 is Anna Eshoo. She's in Atherton, which I believe is in. It's somewhere here. Where is it? I wrote this all down so I could find this. It's in San Mateo County. So yeah, it's somewhere here. I think it's over here somewhere, but it's in her district. Again, very safe. This is one of the few majority white Bay Area seats. And so she's going to be fine. 19, this is Zoe Lofgren, a big powerhouse of the California Democratic delegation, one of the impeachment managers. She gets most of San Jose, and again, lots of Hispanics, lots of Asians. This is like the kind of the beating heart of Silicon Valley, Cupertino, Santa Clara, San Jose. Again, safe Democratic seat. So now 20 is Jimmy Panetta, I want to say, and he lives in, where is it? He lives in Carmel Village, which is in Monterey County, and all of Monterey is in 20. So this is, again, plurality Hispanic seat. He's Hispanic, nothing too much to report. It goes into Fresno County just because of, population management. I didn't like doing that, but there was no real other way to do it for me. So
and nobody lives there. So
yeah, no one lives there. And I really didn't want to, go into SLO if I didn't have to. But yeah, so 21, I mean, I think the Central Valley is the most interesting. So 21, so TJ Cox becomes invulnerable here, basically. I mean, this is basically just a bunch of the really heavily Hispanic blue parts of Fresno, as well as some of the Hispanic blue parts of Bakersfield. It's it kind of looks like a seahorse, I suppose you could say, if you can kind of see it. I mean, it's less obnoxious in my opinion than the current 21, which has that weird hook thing in the south.
Republican County in the middle there.
Oh, Tulare?
No, the one next to it. Yeah.
Oh, Kings? Yeah.
Yeah, poor
I
Kings.
mean, Kings is plurality Hispanic, but I needed to do it for the population. But yeah, this is a Clinton plus 18 seat. So I mean, the current one is like what, Clinton plus 15 or something.
Yeah, it's really, really Democratic.
Yeah, so I mean, difficult to see Valadao coming back here. I think he'd have a much better time in 16. Because I mean, he was from the Fresno area, and 16 touches the Fresno area. So the flip side to 21 is everyone's favorite dairy farmer, Devin Nunes, in California's 22nd district. And he lives in Tulare, which, is a fairly Republican, but, somewhat Democratic trending area. And so this takes up, the other part of the Central Valley. This is a plurality Hispanic seat. It's Trump plus, what is this, 11 or so. So probably SAFAR. If someone like Andrew Jans runs a credible campaign, it could be somewhat competitive, especially with someone with strong Hispanic appeal. But Nunes should be fine, much to the chagrin of, every resist Democrat on Twitter and his cow, of course. But yeah, so then the next thing is 23. So this is probably where the most controversial aspects of the map are. So over here, because I really didn't have anything else to do with 23, It just takes in the rest of Kern, as well as takes in, some of those far northern cities in LA County, as well as some rurals where no one lives in Ventura, so Lancaster, Palmdale. And, given the Democratic lean of the commission, they're probably going to chop up Mike Garcia's seat to shreds. So, I kind of did anyway here. So this is Trump. This is a majority minority seat. It's still 49% white though, and it's Trump plus 6. So in theory, a Democrat could win it, but McCarthy with his war chest as the sitting House minority leader is probably going to be fine. He probably has to moderate himself a tiny bit though, just because of how much his electorate's changing. The margin's gotten about 20 points bluer. Yeah. But yeah, so then 24 here.
I actually think, back on that 23 for a second, I actually think Garcia would have a chance here, mainly just because of the LA portion. He won without party support last time. He had won primaries before, so it's not impossible he could win.
The thing is, Garcia would have to win in a primary, which I don't know if he'd do against McCarthy. But
not a primary. It could be a top 2.
That's true. Yeah, he'd have to beat McCarthy somehow, which I don't foresee. But if he was able to actually, get into a 1v1 with a Democrat, Mike Garcia would probably win the seat. So 24, SLO, Santa Barbara, a tiny little bit of Kern and these islands here. This is Salud Carvajal. He gets, Clinton plus 18. In the 2000s, this would have been a competitive seat, but it's really moved out of reach for the Republicans lately, and nothing too much to say here. So 25 is really the old 26. It takes Oxnard, some of the far western LA County, and most of the rest of Ventura County. Julia Brownlee should be fine here. She lives in Westlake Village, which I think is on the border of Ventura and LA. So not too much to say there. Now, 26 is the other part of ripping up Mike Garcia's seat. So basically, this takes in, Simi Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, as well as the mountains here. And Mike Garcia is now he lives in Santa Clarita, and he now has a Clinton plus 20 seat. So his options are either to, hope that he's running against Christy Smith again, because she lost by 11 in a seat that Katie Hill won by 9. So that's basically, closing this gap here. Or, he better move to 23 and hope he beats McCarthy, because this seat is likely going to flip with Garcia running in it, and definitely going to flip without Garcia running in it. And it's only 48%, 49% white, but this is basically the giant mountain barrier to the north of LA. But that's probably the most controversial aspect of the map. But just with population splits, I'd rather keep the mountains in some of these northern areas of LA intact rather than going further south into the city.
Yeah, for sure.
So 27, remind me who that is. Judy Chu. So she's in Monterey Park. She has a lot of those, Hispanic and Asian areas. So this here is an Asian plurality seat that she gets. Pasadena, Alhambra, El Monte, Arcadia. Again, safe Democratic, nothing too crazy. Then 28, Burbank, Glendale, parts of Hollywood, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. This is, Adam Schiff's seat. Again, safe Democratic, nothing too crazy to say here. 29 is Tony Cardenas. He's from Pacoima, which is in here somewhere. And then, again, safe Democratic, it's majority Hispanic. 30, Brad Sherman's seat has to, expand a little bit to take in some more of these, upscale, white, wealthy areas, Hidden Hills, Calabasas, Malibu, as well as, some more of Beverly Hills. And again, safe Democratic, nothing too crazy to say here. 31, 31, I believe, is in Riverside, because we're following the numbering. But is this Raul Ruiz now?
No. 31 is
it's Pete Aguilar. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very Democratic.
Yeah, Aguilar lives in Redlands. It's plurality Hispanic. He's going to be fine. It's Clinton plus 22. Nothing to worry about. 32. Okay, yeah. So basically, Grace Napolitano lives in Norwalk, which is down here, except her district has Covina, Baldwin Park, and a bunch of these communities up here as well. And then there's Whittier as well, which I believe Norma Torres or Linda Sanchez, I can't remember which one of them it is, but one of them lives in Whittier, so I had to split Whittier to, keep some of their bases intact. She gets a majority Hispanic seat, safe Democratic, nothing to worry about. Then we get Ted Lieu, who is in Torrance in the 33rd District, Santa Monica, LAX, Rolling Hills, Rancho Palos Verdes. And again, safe Democratic seat. It's actually majority white, but, Ted Lieu is definitely the type of Democrat who can appeal to, all different races of people and, isn't as dependent on one particular ethnicity.
And this has that Catalina Island in it, right?
Yes, that is true.
That's the only inhabited of the Channel Islands in California. That's the reason I mention it.
Yeah, exactly.
1,000, 2,000 people live there.
The current Catalina Island district is 47, right?
Yeah, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my opinion.
Exactly, yeah. So, I had it in 44 initially, but then because of population deviations, I moved it into 33. So then 34, again, becomes another, stupidly Democratic seat in, downtown LA. It's 80% Hispanic. If this was Texas, I'd probably get sued for diluting people's votes, but it's LA. You can't really move these guys anywhere. So, Jimmy Gomez is going to be fine here. He lives in this district somewhere. I don't actually know where because it just says Los Angeles, but Boyle Heights, Huntington Park, that's in his seat. 35 is Norma Torres. Okay, she lives in Pomona, which is here.
That little portion in LAC.
Yeah, exactly. Pomona College. Majority Hispanic, safe Democratic. Nothing to report there. Now 36. This here I think is Raul Ruiz. Yeah, he lives in Coachella, which is somewhere here. This basically takes in the eastern part of Riverside County. It's majority white, but it is, Raul Ruiz is pretty popular there. And it's only Clinton plus 9, which is similar to the current one. So in theory, if the Republicans, found a decently credible candidate in a bad enough year, they could make some noise here. But Ruiz should be fine, especially with, trends and all that. So next up is everyone's favorite communist and Castro apologist, Karen Bass. Who was, recently almost Joe Biden's VP. So she represents, a minority coalition seat that's, again, stupidly Democratic. That's very black and very Hispanic. Karen Bass herself is black. She just lives somewhere in LA, but the district takes in Inglewood, Hawthorne, Lawndale, Gardena, lots of these heavily minority areas. It's D plus 39, nothing too crazy to say here. So then 38, this I believe is Linda Sanchez. Yeah, she lives in Whittier, and so the other side of Whittier is in this district, La Abra Heights, and then Cypress, and then a tiny little sliver of Orange County is here. But again, you see it's plurality Hispanic, but there is a sizable Asian population as well. And so, again, safe Democratic here. So now we move to 39, which is the home of the first Korean-American Congresswoman, Young Kim.
You're really not going to let Charlie Kirk live that down, are you?
Well, no. He was really going for it there, yeah. So
looks like a
39,
goldfish.
Gil Cisneros lives in Yorba Linda. This is Clinton plus 8, and it's plurality white, but again large Hispanic and Asian populations. So he'll have to have some deal making that he's good at doing in order to stay in office, but he should be fine there. I'd say it's a likely Democratic seat. Even with someone like Young Kim running on a state on a state legislative level, it's probably more of a toss-up, but on the presidential, it's definitely very strongly Democratic. Now, 40 again, another stupidly Democratic seat. This is for Lucille Roybal-Allard. Again, 62% Hispanic, safe Democratic, nothing to report there. Now, 41 is for Mark Takano. He lives in Riverside. He's Asian, but he's representing, a plurality Hispanic seat. I mean, California is different than, say, like Alabama, where it's not like you have voters of one race that just will carte blanche refuse to vote for members of another race that, like, say, in like Louisiana or something. So the VRA requirements are less strict. But Takano should be fine here. So then the flip side is 42, which is currently represented by Ken Calvert, who lives in the, now infamously named town of Corona. Which is over there. And this kind of just takes in a sliver of Riverside and part of San Bernardino. This is somewhat of a Trumpy district currently with the way the lines are drawn, but now it becomes Clinton +4. And with the left trends, he's kind of cooked. His goose is done. I mean, there's really not much for him to do. Not really much to say. I mean, it's also a majority minority seat. So like, bye-bye, Ken Calvert. Yes, then 43 is the Maxine Waters district. I think she lives in the 37th, but the 43rd is open, and it is majority Hispanic, so she might have that to do. But with her strong national profile and all, she really, is a decent, fit to just move to the seat and run in it, which I think she definitely could. So now 44. Is another safe Democratic seat. And this one is the most interesting because it's the only one where two incumbents are placed into the same district. So Nanette Barragan lives in San Pedro down here, and Alan Lowenthal lives in Long Beach over here. And Lowenthal's current district is plurality Hispanic with a composition like this. Barragan's is heavily Hispanic. So this would be definitely a Democrat versus Democrat primary here. My money would personally be on Barragan winning just because she's younger and maybe slightly more progressive. But, it also goes into a little bit of Orange County and takes in some Hispanic areas in Anaheim and Garden Grove. So then 45 is the Irvine seat. It's plurality white, but it's got sizable Hispanic and Asian representation as well. Katie Porter should be fine here. I think she lives in Irvine. She's a professor at UC Irvine. It's Clinton +17, so not too much of a problem.
She can be even more progressive in the district.
Yeah, exactly. And the current seat is somewhat competitive, but this one is absolutely not. 46 is for Lou Correa. Again, plurality Hispanic. Santa Ana, Garden Grove. He's fine. Nothing too crazy to report here. Now, 47 is interesting because it basically just takes in a bunch of these wealthy, beach towns here, as well as I believe that is Camp Pendleton in the district. Yes, that's Camp Pendleton in the district.
Wow, a very Republican seat.
And yeah, it becomes Trump +6, which, in a year like 2018 is going to flip the Democrats. But definitely someone like Michelle Steele or someone like Janet Nguyen or whatever her name was. Could flip
Janet Yen.
Yeah. Or like Tyler Dieppe, I think was his name. People like that could definitely win this district. It's not that Asian, like it is pretty white, but someone, like a far right nut job like Dana Rohrabaugh in this district, but someone who knows how to, talk, normally would. So then the flip side is now the San Diego area seats. And so 47, both, what are their names? Ruda and Levin live in 47. So one of them would be double bunked possibly, but we'll talk about that. So 48 is the new Daryl Issa seat, assuming he wins against Amar Campa-Najjar. It becomes Trump +11. It's R +11. It's still a fairly Republican seat. So assuming he doesn't, use $600,000 of taxpayer money for pet rabbits, plane tickets, he should, easily win. And it's got Escondido, Temecula, and Poway, Ramona, lots of these very Republican, but with fairly sizable Hispanic population constituencies. So then 49 is similar to the old 49. It's got Oceanside, Vista, and Cinitas. Daryl Issa actually lives in 49, but he's a carpetbagger, so who cares? He's going to move over to 50. Levin can very easily just jump over to 49 because most of this is in his district. Bruda is going to be the one left out to dry in 47. In a redder district, because 49 now is Clinton plus 15. So then we move here to 50, which is a majority white seat, but I'm assuming this is going to be the one Scott Peters represents, safe Democratic. Then 51 is Juan Vargas's 51st district, and it's safely Democratic, keeps the border intact. And then 52 finally is everything else: El Cajon, the other part of San Diego, National City, La Mesa. This is a minority coalition seat that I believe Sarah Jacobs and Georgette Gomez are in the process of duking it out for in the fall. So that is the map district by district. When you look at the stats, if my DRA will load, you can see here that you have 40 to 5 to 7. So in theory, this could be a 40 to 12 map, even though it'll probably be something closer to 46 to 6 when you actually break it down. So in the analytics wise, not a lot of competitive seats, but I mean, it is California, right? Like
they define competitive as just firmly 54, 45 to 55 off of 2016 results, which is a bit narrow in my opinion.
Exactly. Minorities, there's plenty of seats for that. Compactness, splitting, proportionality. Generally, those metrics are fine. Now, I don't know what all of that means, but if you look at this here, these are some of the districts that they could get. So that's Costas, that's Harder's, 42. Calvert is screwed. Raul Ruiz is going to be fine, except if it's a bad year. 39. Young Kim could take a bunch of mail-in votes and declare herself the winner if she wants, but Gil Cisneros is likely going to be fine. And if you look at this vote seats curve, California is actually pretty good when it comes to that. So I mean, I have 50-50 here, but and then these are just some other bias measures. But
I'd actually scroll up just a little bit to back up to the top. Is the one thing I found interesting is the division there. Is there's basically nothing between like 85 and 90. It's like once you get to the it basically just skips from 81 to
43, 34. Well, these are all the seats which don't have a lot of black people in them, I think. 43, 34, 37, 12. Yeah, so 12 is San Francisco, but the others are all just really only probably like 10 to 15% white, which explains why they're that Democratic.
Yeah, it just kind of skips from whereas before it's just pretty stable, and then it just hops up a little bit. I just found that interesting.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, even in the trends, 47 long term is probably going to be somewhat of a Democratic of a Democratic pickup. Hold on one second. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the others, I mean, you can see 23 McCarthy or Garcia, depending on whichever one wants to run there, can run. And then the others are really not that competitive. I mean, 1 is just not, 8 is just not, 48. Oh yeah, that's the Duncan Hunter one. And 4, I mean, 4 could get competitive if Sacramento suburbs keep bluing, but ultimately that's where the map stands. I mean,
or if a bunch of libs move to Alpine County or something.
I mean, honestly, get a bunch of quarantining college kids to move to Alpine County, and there you go. California 4 becomes a toss-up.
But no, it's a pretty good map, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the way it turned out. I mean, I was up at like 3:00 in the morning doing this morning. I had nothing else, but it takes a lot, because there's just so many districts and so many things you have to keep track of. But
viewers, you try this at home. Try and draw a California map and time how long it takes you from beginning to end. It's an extensive process. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, no, like at least Texas is like doable, but like California is a different level.
There's so many competing interest groups and just areas to divide, cities to no end in Los Angeles County. I mean,
Yeah,
It's
honestly.
wild. Yep. But I think that's all the maps we have. So that's all the maps we have for the night. I think Harrison is not going to be able to join us, which is unfortunate, but he'll be back for next week. On the bright side, we did give you 3 other maps from other guests as well as myself. So we really hope you appreciated the look at this so far. I guess if you want to, you can vote in the comments as to which map you think is the most feasible, which one you think is going to get implemented or the closest to be implemented. I think there's merit to all the maps that were shown to some degree. It really, again, it goes down to the commission it's a commission. You never really know how these things are going to go. It could, they could draw a fair map. They could incidentally draw a Democratic map, or they could incidentally just wipe out all the Republicans with competitive seats. It's really hard to know until you see the final map, because I know I say this a lot, but commissions are just so unpredictable. And next week, the state we're going to cover is Colorado, which also has a commission, which will be very unpredictable. I mean, in that state, it's a much smaller state, but again, these aren't elected officials. You can't examine their motives like you would examine an elected official. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through us for the 2.5 hours or so we were on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for Armin for being on, Nick and Adam as well. I think all these maps did worked pretty well. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.